A friend of mine had a motorcycle, and he let me take it for an afternoon, and I really liked it. And then my parents told me, don't do it, so I bought one.
It's life, you know? It's something that it's inside of you. It throws through your veins. You get up thinking about it, you go to sleep thinking about it. Your whole life evolves around just screwing the throttle on.
Something inside me I just can't help, man. It's not a death wish or anything. It's just a certain thrill that I'm seeking.
To me, that's the only freestyle living left is right here.
Oh, why don't you pray for me? Why don't you pray for me?
This is my man. This is it. This is it. This is my man. This is my honey. This is it. You ask any man who rides his bike, that's his woman. This is my man.
It's a meditative event. It almost has a religious experience to it.
And now, Father, as they gather around on the motorcycles, oh, Father, we ask that thou build a shield around them, protect them from all harm and danger.
The other day I was at a bar that impressed me a little bit because here's an airplane pilot, retired, forced out at 60 years old. These guys are intelligent. They went to school. I didn't. I've been riding Harleys for 25, 30 years. I rode them with a lot of roughnecks riding them, okay? Well, this guy's all proud, talking to me. I'm sitting there about half drunk, got some old broad over here trying to get next to her. And he's telling me, hey, I got a brand new Harley, Softail, Heritage. Tell me all about it, and I'm thinking, this guy ain't my league, But now he's pretty cool. He's getting in my league. I'm kind of liking this guy now.
I was a salesman, and I used to go out selling like this. Well, first my brother was a little upset. Made me put a suit and tie on, go out selling. I couldn't sell nothing. Went out as a biker, go to the job site. The guy said, hey, what do you ride? I ride Harley. He said, yeah, me too. Bingo, I got a sale.
Bikers will always be a particular kind of people. When you get this bug, or when it bites you, you become, well, it's not that you feel that you have become different, but you understand those people who also ride bikes.
Danger, I think that's part of it. It's knowing that you're the highest insurance risk on the highway and then trying to use your skill to beat those odds.
And it's something in my character that I like to do things that are a little bit on the edge, or something that I think is a little bit intangible. I gotta try and make it more tangible.
It's something that requires your total concentration. And while you're involved in it, the enjoyment is just really great. And then when it's over, it's something that it's like you had just finished making love. You go, if someone was with you, you say, I miss it again. Wow.
There's nothing like a motorcycle. I think the closest thing to a motorcycle would be a horse. But a horse is alive, and it does what it wants to do, and a motorcycle is completely at your command. It does what you tell it to do. It stops when you want it, and it starts when you want it, and it goes as fast as you want it to.
Me sitting on a motorcycle at 185 mile an hour, that's no thrill for me. I mean, 184 mile an hour is fast, but the actual feeling of acceleration up to probably 160 mile an hour just outweighs that completely. I mean, the feeling of your body being propelled from 0 to 150 mile an hour in 9 seconds from a standing start, that's a feeling to be achieved. You know.
It's the launch that's neat. I mean, you know, at a good hook and track and a good pass, it'll carry the front wheel, won't even touch. It'll carry it about that high, the whole 8th mile pass. You know, just, and if it leans or something or starts pulling, you gotta, you know, lean like this here. But man, the launch, tremendous force, and the launch is definitely the most exciting to me. Sitting totally still and whoa, something else.
I've always had show bikes. I always bought bikes and did something to make them show. There's fun in it for me, just so everybody can look at it. They get a kick out of it. And then they go home, they get ideas, and they start doing a little bit of it. You know, they change the bikes all around.
And speed isn't that important to any of us, I don't think.
Speed isn't important as personality.
No, there you go.
And you can't personalize a crotch rocket.
That's right.
I mean, crotch rockets are crotch rockets. Sure, they can beat me from this light to that light, but the difference is when I pull up in front of a plate glass mirrored window, I look in the window and they look the other way. You know what I'm saying? That's the difference, pal.
It takes a certain more amount of skill and agility and just general insanity to take a bike up to that type of a speed and hike it over to make those turns and not care. It's just a matter of time.
It's excitement of doing something which is close to hurting yourself.
I think when you think about motorcycle people, that's the one common thread that you've got, even though we are attracted to different types of bikes and do different things with them. And deep down, they enjoy an element of risk. And a motorcycle has that.
You build your own machine. You build a powerful, noisy, fast, exciting, possibly sexual object. You ride the machine in a way that's potentially very dangerous. You face death. And if you do it well, you use Hemingway's definition of courage, which is grace when there's deadly peril.
When you're going at such an irate speed that you're like an egg going at 100 miles an hour, and that egg is very fragile. And if anything obstructs the path of that egg during the speed, it is definitely going to shatter the shell. And being on a bike is the same way. You're that egg and you're traveling at that rate of speed, and if anything gets in your way, you're out of the game.
Out of all the injuries that I've had, and I've been in the emergency ward about 8 times, it was on a first-name basis with my orthopedic surgeon. Never once did I ever think about quitting.
The first thing I did the first week after I was out of the hospital is we took the same Honda that I got hurt on, and we went out to the desert, and I had my friends set me on it, give me a push off, and I took off. As long as I was riding, I had my balance. It was when I came to a stop that I had no legs, so they'd have to grab me so I didn't tip over.
We have a rule of thumb in the motorcycle world which states that if you go down on your bike and you break a bone, then you're a biker.
I have yet to meet people that ride motorcycles that don't push it beyond their own limits.
That's what counts to you, is how fast you can push it without exceeding that fine line limit.
You put your most valuable possession, your life, on the line.
I seek therapy runs, going out on the country road and relieving the stress of the day.
I focus, and I think about nothing else. Whatever is currently affecting me in my life just sort of disappears.
So it's this wonderful focus that comes from letting everything go. It's a kind of paradox. You gain control by losing control, by letting everything go, and letting yourself function closer to 100%. Your mind and body working together without a lot of judgmental hoo-ha going on in your head.
It's what the motorcycle does for you. It gives you the freedom, it gives you uniqueness, it gives you the ability to go where you want to go and be who you want to be. It's not where you're going, it's why you go.
I think there ain't nobody in the world that don't want to just pack up, load up, forget all these obligations, and just ride in the wind like these old movies they used to have in the 50s. Stop here, get a little bar fight, get a little race, a little hell, get out of jail the next morning and say, man, I wish I didn't do that. Then maybe, you know, and ride off in the wind again. But nobody's going to do that, don't get me wrong. But I mean, everybody's got that little thing inside them that says, I'd like to do that. I'd like to forget all my responsibilities. I'd like to jump on this scooter and say, forget it, man, I'm gone. I'll see y'all later. Go from one town to another, meet a guy, meet a girl, meet a friend. See you later, buddy, I'm going. We all get that in us.
My soul needs to float and roam, be free. And if I don't do that with my imagination, I do it with a motorcycle.
It takes a Zen monk decades to learn how to sit in a quiet room in some unnatural position on his haunches, the way they get into those things, and not be bothered by the joint pain, and to lose himself and become empty. That's what meditation's about. If you get on a bike at 100 miles an hour, you're empty immediately. It's a sort of shortcut to focus, or shortcut to meditation. The lazy man Zen.
motorcycles are a vehicle for exposing your skills, the romance of it. So you just get a lot of the outgoing type person. You know, I can't recall anybody that I could identify as a cream puff individual, or, you know, whatever you might perceive that to be, saying, well, I want to ride a motorcycle too, but I'm really worried about everything.
I think motorcycle people are generally honest, outdoors people, down to earth. They're not fake.
Ordinary people are, they give the bikers something. I mean, the bikers don't really go out there and terrorize people, right? But people give them the that kind of power. You know, I mean, it's some kind of awe, the ability to frighten just by what their reputations are.
They think of us as being Marlon Brando lookalikes who are dressed in dirty leathers and go and beat up on old ladies and terrorize towns.
And that image is still there. A lot of people, a lot of these young guys, man, they get on these bikes, they think they're badder than what they are now. And there is some guys that are out here that are mean. Sure. I mean, they don't act mean, they just kill you.
It might give you that extra little macho boost too, so men and women alike will leave you alone.
Because it's for the people that are strong, that aren't scared. And those are usually two kind of macho things. You know, no fear and strength.
And the image came from the kid in the back of the class that used to goof off all the time, the one that used to get kicked out, the one that's always sitting by himself, that's where it come from. These guys said, well, I'm gonna be by myself and I'm gonna be on my one-man scooter. And I'm gonna do my thing myself. I don't need people. People need me.
And I think that motorcycle is an extension of my personality. And if it portrays an image of rebellion, that's what it's there for. That's what I do with it.
Dickens wasn't interesting to me. None of that, the classic novels were interesting, but Hot Rod magazine and comic books, Batman, Superman, that was special stuff. You can come out here and be Superman.
Bikers have always been people unto themselves and resentful of intruders. Yeah. And the idea of having almost everybody from all facets of society entering into it and putting, you know, large amount of money and et cetera, into biking, as opposed to having the spirit only as your, you know, as being your definition of a biker.
They probably are just doing that because that's the in thing to do and it's trendy and they think it's cool.
I think there is a small center group of people that I really consider bikers. And those are the people that ride every day they have a chance. And I think sometimes they don't think of themselves as bikers. It's just they want to do it. And there's a big periphery of people who want to be considered bikers. For them, a Harley Davidson is like another piece of costume jewelry.
You could be a doctor, and you can walk out of your office and put on a bunch of letters and drop them in your Harley Davidson, and they'd be a different guy altogether.
The lone wolf biker is kind of a thing of the past. They like to think of themselves as the Marlboro Man, but when you look, they have a support system behind them that are also people riding motorcycles.
Because motorcycling is essentially an activity where people don't mind who you are or what the hell you do, as long as you love bikes, you can be yourself.
A motorcycle can represent a kind of self-satisfaction in that it represents your capabilities and your power. And it's the way that you somehow make life happen the way you want it to happen.
It's like a crucible. It bakes away the ash, the troublesome part. It cleans you. It recreates you. Recreation. That's what it's supposed to be. And it works. That's why people do it. they come back refreshed from a weekend in the desert or riding in the mountains or racing on an oval or riding on the road, taking a weekend trip. It recreates them again.
The bikers that started all this were looked on as kind of heroes, just like in the Wild West. People looked on the gunfighters and everything as heroes, and they wanted to imitate them, be like them. That's the continuing thing for a lot of the motorcycle riders or bikers, that they want to be like the people that came before them. And that spirit, I think, has been going on ever since the time began, because when the West was settled and pioneers came out here, they were the same spirited people that is downtown Sturgis now, you know, kicking up their heels.
The Isle of Man is kind of a mecca for us. We are like pilgrims, having come to the Isle of Man, which is motorcyclists' land.
It's a gathering of experienced people that are good at what they're doing. And I appreciate that when I'm around a crowd like that, and I enjoy looking at them and bikes, and how they ride and what they're doing. And maybe they like to look at me too on occasion, and that's okay too.
There's nothing in the world that can replace the feeling I get when I'm screaming around those banks at 100 and some odd miles an hour. Nothing can replace that feeling.
When I was a young man, as I said, 16, I met my wife right here in Daytona Beach. And I was riding up and down on a motorcycle, and she liked the motorcycle, so she asked if she could go for a ride, and I told her yes. And we were married here in Daytona Beach. My son was born in Daytona Beach, and this year it'll be 38 years we've been married. And here we are.
What you see here are not just all bikers, or what you call patch holders. These people would surprise you. There's some lawyers, doctors, dentists, school teachers who like the freedom that they have here, but they're not willing to give up and say, this is the lifestyle I want to live. They're afraid that they can't make it in this world, so they work, and on the weekends, they ride their Harley Davidsons, they come to the parties, and they be associated with what they would really like to do. But they just ain't got the guts to say, I'm going to do it.
People are somewhat awed or frightened by a much smaller group of people, and yet aspire to their freedoms to frighten.
We got these yuppies that want that. Gosh, I wish I'd have been a little roughneck. I wish I'd have said something that said that guy said something to me at the bar. I wish I'd
roughneck.
I wish I'd have. Maybe if I had a Harley, that guy wouldn't have punched me the other night.
Each biker that comes here is looking for the person of his own type to socialize with, I believe. And the different segments of society, of the society of bikers, don't necessarily all socialize with each other. They socialize with the ones of their own type.
A lot of people get nervous when speeds go up or guns go off, and it's a kind of a relaxing tranquility involved. And then the tension before, I guess the tranquility during, and then the reflection of how it feels afterward is a tremendous reward.
This is, as far as I can possibly imagine, the most desolate place in the world. You're walking on salt, there's nothing but dry desert air, and there's not a living thing within 10 miles. There's not a fly, there's not a bird, nothing can live here, there's no fresh water to drink. Nothing could possibly survive. And when you're out in the middle of the salt flats, if you want to feel that way, you're the most insignificant thing in creation, because you can walk for 5 hours in every direction and you haven't gotten anywhere. The scenery hasn't changed, there aren't any trees. It's just nothing. But it's flat.
So if you like to go fast, this is the place to go fast in the entire world. It's the best place.
At one time on a record run, I reached up to adjust the clutch and my elbow started flapping. The wind got under my chest and literally lifted me off the bike, where both legs were dragging out behind the bike and the one arm was dragging out behind the bike and just my throttle hand was on it. And it took a while to kind of pull myself back together, but I was literally flying above the motorcycle, about this far above the gas tank. And you just can't do that anywhere else and not get killed.
It's a whole different sensation. At 100 miles an hour, the engine is roaring and the motorcycle is reflecting the sound off the ground up into your ears and into your helmet. Up at maybe 150 miles an hour, you start to lose the sound of the engine. You start to hear nothing but the sound of the wind. And after about 175 miles an hour, you really can't hear much of anything anymore. Everything is just concentrated on one little area right in front of you. And then you get up to 200 miles an hour and over 200 miles an hour, and the motorcycle just seems to float through the air. You can't hear anything. It's hard to see anything other than just a narrow little place in front of you, and that's when it feels right.
When I started it by myself, it was no fun riding a bike by myself. It was no fun just hanging out by myself. That's why I started this club, because I enjoy riding with my fellow brothers and going places.
The newcomers are my surrogate family. I'm not tight with my family, I'm tight with this family. And they fill a hole in my life. And, you know, some of these guys crawled out of a hole, but they're my family.
A structure, a strong structure, with a good foundation.
Hello. You have just penetrated the newcomer security system. Please leave your message before the FBI pinpoints your exact location. Thank you.
Well, the world itself is hostile. I mean, everything we're involved with has hostility in it, whether it be physical or verbal. It's just that here we respect each other to the degree where we don't allow ourselves to entertain violence amongst each other here. If it went that way, honestly, I would believe that we would turn it on someone else before it happened in here. The Imperials, like any other MC, it's about the brotherhood. If you don't have your brothers, you don't have anybody.
It does feel great when you're going down the highway and you got 20, 30 guys with you riding. And, you know, people do look at you, they do stare. So it is a nice feeling. Wow, like, you know, you feel like you're in the movies. You feel like Marlon Brando coming down the highway.
And oh, Heavenly Father, we ask to bless upon those that come from that garden state to participate, those that come from far part of North Carolina, Pennsylvania. At this moment, we want to say thank you, Jesus.
It's like a connection with people, you know. When you belong, you have the freedom to express yourself. You have the freedom to join in conversation with others. You have the freedom of joining. You have, and it's not just in the club, it's also in the circuit, which is like relatives all around. And wherever you go, you could go out of town and meet people for the first time, and you feel that same feeling of belonging because it's in that circuit. And the bikers always show that they belong with each other.
This is our house. This is our house. This is what's considered the house.
Come on, scum on!
You could be yourself here. We're biking people. We live that biking style, and you don't have to worry about outside people.
A biker doesn't care what the rest of the world thinks. Only thing the biker cares about is the love for the world that he's in.
I feel that I've met quite a few brothers that I know that tomorrow they're going to be there for me. I can't do that with some of the guys in my job who I've been working for 20 years.
When you're riding with a brother, is that you know where he's at. He knows where you're at. You stick together no matter what, through thick and thin. You know where he's coming from, you know where he's going. We have enforcers. We have the sergeant of arms. And it's their job and duty is to make sure that nobody messes with anybody in our club or with their families. Outsiders, especially outsiders.
People don't mess with bikers because they figure where there's one biker, there's 25 someplace down the block somewhere. So, you know, and then they figure that they're going to come back, which they will.
Most of these guys in this club work hard. They have families, they have children, and they just want to come down to a place like this and hang your hat and have a good time. And that's what this club is all about.
They just want to have some place to let off steam, be there, have some place to be, and then the rest of the week is they just want to be left alone, you know, family and job and all that. And that's the difference between us and them, you know. If you can't go with the bad with the good, then you might as well stay the hell out.
Maybe I was missing a family. Maybe I was missing somebody to be, you know, I wanted to be wanted. You know, they want you in the club, they vote you in. You just don't come in just to be coming in. They have to vote you in. They have to want you. So I feel that I was wanted.
You got to be that, it's electric. It's shocking, it's electric. Take the style with electric, as you move with electric, it's all back. You got to know when it's electric. You can't hold that, it's electric. But you know it's there.
Most of the bars tend to shy away from bike clubs. You know, a lot of them will tell you when you walk in the door, take your clothes off. And like us, we don't take our clothes off for nobody. So we'd rather party at our own house.
They don't throw you out like most of these bars and take your money away from you. And you've been drinking all night long. They just tell you, pull your motorcycle in, pull yourself a seat where you can sit down and go to sleep. I'll see you later on. This is not something that you get, you know, Grady's downtown Manhattan. No, Grady's, when they close up in the morning, they throw everybody out. In the motorcycle world, we do the closing of the clubs.
They could be somewhere else, and then after a while they say, yeah, all right, okay, let's go back to the house. They're tired of that now. Okay, let's go back to our world. Our world is the bike club. Being around the bike club, sitting around, talking, bull crapping, drinking beer, listening to music, playing pool. That's what bikers enjoy.
It's an inveterate bachelor, lived by himself in a little bungalow in the most southern part of southern New Zealand. Never had any money. didn't have much of an education, but probably knew more about motorcycles than almost anybody in that half of the world.
He had no training per se, technical training to my knowledge. He just self-taught by reading books.
He had a 1920-something Indian. He made his own overhead valve conversion for it. He used to make all his own parts. He made his own body. He made his body by towing this thing behind him, this fairing behind a boat.
He used a fish, and he figured a fish went through water as quick as anything, so he picked a fish that most fit the design of the motorcycle, and in this case it was a barramundi fish, which is a local fish to New Zealand.
He just made everything by hand. The only power tools he had in his little workshop was a jeweler's lathe, which had like about a 3-inch swing.
He had the tools of a blacksmith, but he created what would still be today considered state-of-the-art wind streamlining. This motorcycle today is still what the old pros and all the people that go fast consider the slipperiest of all motorcycles.
He was a crazy guy, and he came out here till he was 60 or 70 years old.
Burt just happened to be one of these guys who lived and breathed motorcycle.
I work on my bike the last 27 years, every day in the year except 3 Sundays, which makes me feel guilty. I retired from making a living in 27 years ago, and I've worked full-time on my 2 bikes ever since.
He set 3 different world's records. He was the fastest bike at Bonneville 3 different times of those 10 years.
And he actually went one way at Bonneville. He ran 197 miles an hour once. On the return trip he blew up, but it was quick.
In that time period, he blew it up 114 times. 5 times here in the States at various visits that he had a heart attack. Nobody knew about him, and he survived all of them. He just ran out of time. He wasn't going to give up. They just changed the rules so he couldn't run his bike anymore. And they only did that primarily, I think, was because they didn't want him running anymore. They figured he was too old, but Burt wasn't old. His body was, but his mind wasn't. And he was just as game as any time in his life, even up to the last time he ran at the Salt.
At the end of the run, he had ran a little bit off course and I guess got a little bit disoriented and became lost, and they had to send out a search party.
They couldn't refuse him because he was old, but they just decided that the way to keep him from racing was to not approve his motorcycle, that they would always find some little thing that was wrong with his motorcycle and say, I'm sorry, you can't race because you have to fix this, and Burt would take the thing into town and fix it, and then he'd come back a day later with it fixed, and they'd say, oh, well, now you have to fix this. And Burt was a wonderful mechanic. He built everything, and everything was unique, and I think their lack of confidence in him just broke his heart.
The magic of Bonneville was what was keeping him alive. It gave him something to work for, to look forward to every year.
It broke his heart. He was dead in a year.
When I first climbed my ass on a bike, when you went in the bar and somebody started messing with you, you got dropping. And then they either leave you alone or you get beat up and you're going down the road. But you got your pride and you got your individualism, so who really cares?
It's in me, you know, it's the biking thing. It's in there, never to go away.
We've been a lot of places together, we've seen a lot of things, and I think I have almost all of them still. I can't sometimes let them go. Sometimes they sit in the garage for 5 years and then we go out on the town together.
Tank is full, the switch is on, night is warm, cops are gone, rocket bike is all her own, it's called a Hurricane. She told me once it's quite a ride, it's shaped so there's this place inside where if you're moving, you can hide, safe within the rain. She wants to run away, but there's nowhere that she can go, nowhere the pain won't come again. But she can hide in the pouring rain. And she rides the eye of the hurricane. Tell the truth, explain to me how you got this need for speed. She laughed and said it might just be the next best thing to love. Hope is gone, and she confessed that when you lay your dream to rest, you can get what's second best, but it's hard to get enough. She wants to run away, but there's nowhere that she can go, nowhere the pain won't come again. But she can hide in the pouring rain. She rides the eye of the hurricane. We saw her ride so fast last night, racing by in a flash of light, riding quick. The street was dark, the shiny truck she thought was parked had blocked her path, stopped her heart, but not the hurricane. She saw her chance to slip the trap, there's just the room to pass and back, but then it moved, closed the gap, she never felt the pain.
Coming up next on the Discovery Channel, The Nature of Things profiles the wolf, ancestor of the domestic dog now threatened with extinction. Tomorrow at midnight Eastern and Pacific, Discovery Showcase explores man's fascination with dinosaurs.
But she can hide in the pouring rain. She rides